600 million people suffer from food poisoning each year. For 3,000 of those people, it's fatal. Why is foodborne illness still so prevalent today, in spite of incredible advances in technology and medicine? The ironic fact is, it's that same advancement that has enabled foodborne illnesses to thrive. Over the last 50 years, technology and globalization have made it easier for people to travel, trade, and explore new culture.
Basic HACCP plan at home. We are the Team Incredibles, and we will share to you our plans at home about HACCP plan in order for us to prevent from food poisoning. Stay tuned, but before proceeding to the main goal, let us have some overview about the 7 principles of HACCP. HACCP is a systematic approach to identify, evaluate, and control of food hazard. The principles are: conduct a hazard analysis, determine the critical control points, establish critical limits, establish monitoring procedures, establish corrective actions, establish verification procedures, and establish record keeping and documentation procedures.
So the third principle of HACCP is the critical limit. So to dig deeper, let's take example in identifying critical limits in receiving meat product. So first, know the purpose. Then the purpose would be verify safe food temperature control during transport from the supplier. Second, the scope of the identification of critical limits would be deliveries of refrigerated and frozen time and temperature control for safety. So the critical limit that is identified will be refrigerated or chilled food shall be delivered at a maximum of 8 degrees Celsius or 46 Fahrenheit. Frozen foods shall be hard frozen and without signs of previous thawing at time of delivery, such as frost build-up, discoloration, packaging integrity, or freezer burn. Those identified limits must be given corrective action to ensure safety in meat products.
HACCP number 4, monitoring critical control points. So what is monitoring, by the way? So monitoring is defined as the act of conducting a planned sequence of observation or measurement of control parameters to assess whether a CCP is under control. There are two types of monitoring. First, the quantitative measurement, which answers the question or the measurement of temperature, time, humidity, water activity, etc. And the second one is observation by a trained individual, which conducts manual sorting. A well-designed monitoring procedure will address each of the following points. First, who is responsible for the monitoring activity? Second, what is to be monitored? Third, how it is to be monitored? Fourth, when will it be took place or how often? Our example here is cooking of the meat in our homes, specifically pork steak. So who is the one responsible for monitoring activity? I am the one who's responsible in our home. But in some industries, there are maintenance personnel who is the one assigned for monitoring. So what is to be monitored? I'm going to monitor the meat, the doneness of the meat, or the temperature when it will be done. Then how it is to be monitored? It is monitored by using a cooking thermometer. And when monitoring will take place? The monitoring will take place during cooking, and how often? It is more likely twice or thrice we will going to check the temperature of the meat. It is before cooking, during cooking, and after 20 to 30 minutes of cooking, then we will going to check again the temperature of the meat. Then if it reaches 170 degrees Fahrenheit, then it is already cooked and safe to eat. The monitoring procedure performed during the operation should result in a written documentation because it will serve as an accurate record of the operating conditions. And those written documentation includes the actual monitoring information, date and time activity took place, and the signature or initials of the person conducting the monitoring procedure. And those data derived from the monitoring procedure will be reviewed and evaluated by a designated person with knowledge and authority to give corrective actions. That would be all for the monitoring critical control points. Thank you.
The fifth step is the corrective action. What is a corrective action? Corrective actions are the actions that moves to the attainment of the critical limit is exceeded at any step of food production in any business, such as delivery, storage, and preparation. Critical limits mark the minimum or maximum acceptable level of identified food safety hazard at each critical control point. The 2-hour or 4-hour rule, for example, identifies the maximum acceptable amount of time that food can be in the temperature danger zone, the 5 degrees Celsius to the 60 degrees Celsius, before it must be thrown out. The examples of immediate corrective actions. An immediate corrective action fixes an existing problem or deviation from a critical limit. It stops a food safety breach that is happening now. Some of the examples of immediate corrective actions are throwing out food items that show signs of spoilage like bad smell or slimy skin, rejecting a food delivery with white marks on the packaging or other signs of pest infestation, transferring of unrefrigerated perishable foods into cold storage, 5 degrees Celsius or below, disposing of food items that have been in the temperature danger zone for more than 4 hours, and lastly, sending an employee home if they are experiencing symptoms of foodborne illnesses such as fever, nausea, and diarrhea. The examples of preventative corrective actions. A preventative corrective action prevents a potential problem from happening. It stops a breach from occurring in the future. Some of the examples of preventative corrections are repairing broken, cracked, or chipped equipment, dishware or glassware, replacing a food preparation surfaces such as chopping board or countertops with cracks or deep scratches. Another is changing work procedures to improve food safety or quality. Second to the last is appointing a food safety supervisor to manage food safety risk in the business. And lastly, ensuring that all staff receive comprehensive and food safety training.
Principle 6 is record keeping. This is a step where monitoring results must be recorded for review by the assigned person at home. Record keeping is an essential part of the HACCP system, and this record indicates to evaluate and handle food. HACCP records include documenting, first, monitoring at critical control points, second, corrective actions taken, third is the calibration of process monitoring instruments. Principle 7 is verification. The assigned person must verify that the HACCP plan is controlling food safety hazards that are likely to occur and that the help of the plan is correctly implemented. In verification, a daily record review that ensures first, controls were working, second, proper information was recorded, third, proper protective work taken, fourth, handles food properly from purchasing down to cooking at home. This table shows the merging of principles 6 and 7, which is the record keeping and the verification, as they go together as they are essential as if the corrective actions are met.
The process steps includes raw meat receiving and cooking. In the receiving, cross-contamination is our identified hazard and control temperature is our control measure, storage temperature is the critical limit, and the monitoring as to how, who, and the frequency. Corrective action will be monitored record the temperature hourly, and the verification is review closely monitor. In the cooking process, we have there identified the oil splatter as the physical hazard, and the control temperature is the control measure, cooking temperature is the critical limit, and the monitoring as to how, which is the fixed temperature, who, anyone in charge, and frequency during cooking. And our corrective action will be monitor heat level of 350 degrees Fahrenheit and 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and the not left unattended. And verification will be review closely monitor. And so that concludes the principles 6 and 7, which is the verification and the record keeping.